Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
I had no idea they hired.
There are quite a few women working in the space program.
The movie Hidden Figures tells the story of 3 black women who were among hundreds who worked to build the space program at NASA. But you've probably never heard the names Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, or Mary Jackson until now. These human computers did the math by hand to put a man into orbit. And they aren't the only black women who have been overlooked for their contributions to science. Here are 6 other black female scientists whose work has made a big difference. Alicia Augusta Ball was born in 1892, not exactly a time when black women had a lot of opportunities. But her study of chemistry led her to develop a treatment for leprosy, a disfiguring skin disease whose sufferers were isolated from society. Even though her discovery was used throughout the decades, she didn't get any credit for it during her lifetime. Then there's Marie Maynard Daly. In 1947, she became the first black woman to receive a doctorate in chemistry. Her work uncovered the link between cholesterol and clogged arteries, changing the way doctors treat heart disease and ultimately the way people eat. Patricia Bath became the first black woman to receive a medical patent. In 1988, she developed a laser that changed the treatment of cataracts, which are the leading cause of blindness. Her technology allowed her to restore the sight of patients who had been blind for more than 30 years. Valerie Thomas didn't have much encouragement to pursue her interest in science as a girl. Her father refused to help her with electronics projects, and her all-girls school didn't encourage science and math classes. But she still went on to work at NASA and lead the development of Landsat, the first satellite to send images from space. Like your phone, you have Shirley Ann Jackson to thank for that. Her work in theoretical physics and telecommunications paved the way for the development of all kinds of technology we use today, like caller ID, call waiting, and fiber optic cables. Oh, and she's also the reason phones don't look like this anymore. Mae Jemison started her career as a doctor before going on to become the first black female astronaut. She orbited the Earth 126 times during her spaceflight, then left NASA to lead the 100-year Starship project, which hopes to allow human travel beyond our solar system in the next 100 years. These women had to struggle with sexism and racism to pursue their careers in science. And while things have improved, black women still make up less than 10% of the workforce in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics jobs. If these women hadn't managed to defy expectations and do their work, we would have missed out on discoveries that have changed the way we live. With black women still facing barriers today, what other discoveries are we missing out on?
You're listening to brandlive.co.za.
Back on attack, myself, Tanda Bangalisa from Sangares. I'm with my wife today, and it's the Fashion Blueprint, where we get small brands talking to one another, and that, as we always say, the solutions lie in ourselves, Small business needs to talk to one another, and that's what we are going to be doing today. So, how are you feeling, my love, on this wonderful Women's Day weekend?
Feeling great, feeling hopeful. A day after Women's Day, an important day to just take a step back and look at how far we have come and how much more we still have to go as women, as a society, as a country, as the world. It's important to have those days where you take a step back and you look at yourself.
No, for sure. Now, just to recap, for those of you who do not know the significance of Women's Day, it's a national women's holiday in South Africa that is celebrated on the 9th of August every year, and the day commemorates the 1956 march of approximately 20,000 women to the Union buildings in Pretoria to protest against the country's past laws as required, which were basically there to restrict, and control black movement throughout the country. Mostly migrant laborers. Certain people weren't supposed to be in Joburg that are supposed to be in Joburg. So it was very restrictive, and for them to have the courage to march to Union buildings just as women, led by Lillian Ngoyi and Helen Joseph, Rahim Musa and Sophie Williams.
Sure, just to some important facts around Women's Day in South Africa. As he said, the first one was in 1956, and the first celebration of Women's Day was in 1994. It took us lots of years to get to a point where we could properly acknowledge the women, and we've been celebrating it ever since. And what is the significance of celebrating Women's Day? It's because, women are still, lots of strides have been made, but at the same time, women still face lots of hardships, lots of challenges, from parenting to domestic violence to sexual harassment.
What about? I mean, if you
Workplace.
think of that shocking story of that young lady in Grahamstown who got raped at the Rhodes University, and 3 days later, she committed suicide. It's absolutely shocking, man.
Yeah, it's what's really, really torturous about that is the fact that, to get raped is one thing, but to feel like there's no hope after something like that happens to you, to feel so hopeless, is even more devastating. And my message to young women out there and people who go through things is that, we all go through things, but there's always a tomorrow. Hope is the pillar that holds the world up, and may we try to give hope to others, to also remain hopeful. It was really, really just sad. I have no words as a mom, as a woman, I just can't imagine what her parents thought. And
to think that it's happening at such a highly regarded and respectful institution like Rhodes. I mean, I remember a few years ago reading that there was actually a problem at this particular institution of rape, girls getting raped, things getting swept under the carpet. When girls go to the authorities, people not taking these complaints seriously, and now for things to culminate in this girl's death, I mean, it's just shocking, and I suppose that's what Women's Day is about, not to only highlight the courage that the women
very
face, but
important word.
to highlight as domestic violence, sexual abuse against women, and all these horrible things that, as much as we are a fantastic country, we are still suffering under these horrible conditions, especially. And when I say us, I include myself.
Well, it is a man and a woman's problem, because women have to live amongst men, and if things are not well, if somebody's dealing with those kinds of things deeply, it does affect their relationships with the world around them, be it their friends, their men, their women, your children. It's quite a problem. And to have this young woman who was just starting out in life, her parents, who knows the sacrifices that the family has made for her to be at that institution, and all she had to go and do was get an education. Now comes some other child from some other family, and God knows what would compel a person to do that. I just think we need a bit of healing, both men and women, either healing or proper justice, or not either. I think they go hand in hand, where we need to teach our young men how to handle women, how to live with women. I mean, it's a real disgrace, and it's a disgrace to the people that hide these things. You cannot hide these things, because they manifest themselves in the most awkward ways, and this is tragic, far beyond. Our condolences to the family, and to all her loved ones. May her soul and her death be not in vain. May it mean something to those of us who remain by us doing something, not just saying tragedy and it ends there.
There's nothing else that we can do. But I think, for me, as you know, you and I have lived and traveled all over the world. And the thing that we are always amazed at in South Africa is the wonderful opportunity that women have got, you take it from the bottom all the way up to government, the presence and the focus and the value that women are bringing is highly recognized and appreciated. I mean, I remember, I think a few days ago, I was walking down the road where I live, and there were some telecom trucks there, and all 3 telecom trucks were being ridden by women. I stopped and I asked them, like, how did they get into this?
Where's the guy?
Where's the guy? And they're like, no, they don't need guys. They've been doing this for 15 years. They're engineers in their own right. They studied at school electrical and engineering. Very proud women, chests out. I'm reminded, I mean, if you think in town, every now and again you get to see a lady who's a taxi driver.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you can go into any other of our neighboring countries. I don't think, Mozambique would have a lady taxi driver. I don't think Senegal would have a lady taxi driver.
Suppose it
but
would
the
be
lady,
quite a novel idea.
and the lady was calling the shots. She was mixing it up with the men. She had no time. She had her equal rights, and obviously, establishing her authority in that it's quite a novel idea that a woman will drive a taxi. So, as much as we do have these pressing issues, I think South Africa is one of the greatest countries when it comes to affording women opportunities and letting the women flourish in these opportunities.
Well, I think everyone would like to see more, and we would like to it to become the norm. As you so say, South Africa has really done well.
Yeah.
Like even things like if something as unfortunate as rape does happen to you, there are public institutions that are accessible for most people, I suppose in urban centers where you can go and get some assistance. And you don't usually get that anywhere else in the world. I mean, going to the police station, they might not even believe you. I think a couple of weeks ago we spoke of an example in China. A woman got raped and went to report the case. And the cops said to her, why don't you just let him buy you a diamond necklace, And that's how they saw it. They didn't see it as a big deal. They just see it as how things are. That's how it should be. And even the perpetrator himself offered to marry her. Said, okay, I'll marry you.
Ooh.
I'll make you one of my wives, basically. Because he already had quite a few. Because to him, it really wasn't a big deal. But at the end of the day, I don't see what violence has to do with marriage and love. And I think it boils down to, obviously, education, where they need to be educated. And also, hopefully, next time a woman goes and reports a rape case at a police station, she'll be dealing with another woman, not just men. There might, hopefully, it's a team of both men and women to help her tell her story and assist her. Because those sensitivities, sometimes they say, unless you've walked in somebody's shoes, until you walk in somebody else's shoes, you might not quite know what they're talking about. And you must always have that room
To move.
that room, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when you talk about these cases, I just become so confused, and just so, I wouldn't say depressed, but there's a lot happening behind closed doors, and it is shocking. Obviously, as a nation, we're still healing, but it's time for us to put get our act together, as men. To strike a woman is just cowardly.
Thank you. We just got a message from Norma. Norma is in New Zealand. Young Norma. Norma is like 13, very young lady. She says she thinks the message we're talking is very powerful. Thank you, Norma, for listening and for also just having the sensitivity to these things at your age. Well done to your mom. I know your mom is a strong lady.
Yeah.
Thank you that you are listening.
Mrs. Twilelo, hey, what a powerful lady.
A powerhouse.
Actually, she's a customer of ours, and she's a politician, and at her age to be heading the South African diplomatic corps in New Zealand is just outstanding. A hard-working woman, a woman who understands what South Africa is about, and someone that I'm very confident that can sell South Africa. I don't know about all the other politicians, but her in particular, I know that she can sell South Africa, drive the South African agenda, and really, create a wonderful impression. So we just wanted to thank you once again, Mrs. Twilelo, for the wonderful job that you are doing out in New Zealand.
Thank you, family. Thank you, Norma. Say hi to Mpo, and I hope you guys had a brilliant Women's Day. Were you guys on holiday? I wonder if is it international?
I'm sure they're on holiday now. They're on holiday. Summer's now.
I know they're on
do
holiday.
the schools down under work on the same season as
They've
overseas?
been on holiday. I think they're back. But thank you. Yeah, so it's really an amazing time, I guess, in the world. So many amazing things are happening to women. And actually, just earlier on, we were playing a video on some of the most important black women in history who've done the most significant things that were overlooked. I'm talking from NASA to women who developed vaccines. Let's actually see if Elvira can help us bring up the video, because it would be amazing to play it. I mean, we're mostly aware of women. Can you put it on WhatsApp? Can you put up the video for us? If you can help us with the video. We're mostly aware of women who are in politics, but there has been women in science and in all sorts of things who have done the most amazing things, from women who developed vaccines, from there was a movie last year that came out about, I think there's 4 black women in America who helped NASA to launch the first space rocket. But beyond that, there's like all these amazing things, amazing contributions that were overlooked because you're a woman. Maybe you shouldn't have even been there, and your name just kind of gets lost in the history books, which is really quite sad, because I think for most kids, for you to do certain things, I know for me that you need to see somebody that you can relate to. It always makes such a difference if somebody has, similar circumstances to you. It convinces you that you can do it. Hi, Ali. Ali joined it. that if you know someone who's closer to you, it means you also can do it.
Definitely. Okay, guys, let's just hold that thought. Rent has got to be paid. See you at the other side of this. Thank you. Bye.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.beastownmedia.co.za.
Making a bold statement yet blending into the surrounding suburbs of Melville, 27 Boxes is a realization of edgy design and practical implementation. A radical departure from the shopping malls of our generation, yet not a return to the high streets of our youth. 27 Boxes showcases the best of a shopping centre set in a garden, surrounded by the bohemian suburb that is Melville. 27 Boxes, shop, play, eat. Harnessing the power of talk radio. brandlive.co.za. You're listening to brandlive.co.za.
Mbeni bahlali sasibuyile ngoku phase 2 section 2 in Egugulethu eKasi. No, I'm joking. We are here in 27 Boxes here in Melville, in the bohemian surroundings of this beautiful neighborhood. Feeling a bit chilled. Public holiday yesterday. Trying to get our thing together, and just celebrating women as a whole. Highlighting domestic violence, highlighting women excellence, highlighting the fact that we need to nurture women. They are the backbone of our society, and that's what this program is about. So as you were saying, Mimi.
Oh, I was saying, when we started the show, we spoke of these. We played a video with 6 black or female scientists who have had the most amazing impact in the world, the way we know it today, as we know it today. And these are people who are overlooked by virtue of just being female. Like, for instance, Valerie Thompson. Valerie Thompson was a scientist who developed the technology that helped people to cure, like the most what do you call it?
Isn't she the lady that did the laser treatment?
The most severe cases of eye diseases. Laser treatment today was pioneered by somebody like that, but you would never think of that. We are just so far. Even caller ID, Shirley Ann Jackson is a woman who paved the technology for telephones, for the cell phone industry today. So go do your history. Go find out about like the first female astronaut. What's her name? Major Jamison, born in 1956 to now. She's the first black woman to go around the space 12 times. Go around into space and circle the Earth 12 times.
Was she the first woman astronaut?
Yep.
Yes, that is incredible.
Yeah.
That really
but
is
I mean,
incredible.
If you think today, we still make up less than 10% of the workforce in the world.
Ish.
But nonetheless, we pioneer. And I think what's really great is that I think most people are realizing that employing women, it just makes business sense. There's so many advantages to working with women. Wouldn't you say? Working with a woman? whatever. I mean, things like
No,
empathy.
you know what? For me, I've always understood the power of women because of the influence of my mother in our family business. But not only her, you know, we were surrounded. I mean, if you look at a majority of the businesses in and around Langa, they are owned and operated by women. Even some of the most powerful taxi owners are women, you know. And that's it, you know. You think from the lady who's selling amagwinya on the street to the lady in the caravan to the lady in the shop. A lot of these businesses, a lot of our enterprises are owned by women. And if you look at even the situation Emakaya, the people that are still farming the land are
True.
mostly women.
Women are hard workers. I think there's a certain consistency
Yeah.
that we bring, and a certain kind of continuity.
Survival, man. Survival. There's a certain
And
get up and go that women have that men do not have. And I'm sorry to say it like that. Excuse me. And it's led by survival, you know, wanting to provide for your family, being driven to do better.
we make do. Women make do.
Yeah, women make do, and they're innovative and all sorts of things.
And they're stylish and they're beautiful. We try. I mean, women, we have to do it all. I think when they say women can multitask, that's exactly what they're talking about, in the sense that we learn to make do. We will not say no. We will try as much as we can to do the best we can and to move with everybody. Hi, Kennedy. Kennedy joined in from Cape Town.
Kennedy Jimba,
How's it?
very, very nice guy. One of the first black guy to go to boarding school at Bishop's. I'm talking like 1979, you know. heavy. You know, we were there in the 80s, but you can imagine the first guy. So, Brachimba, salute. So, Mimi, tell me, there are lots of women that inspire you.
Mm-hmm.
But give me the top 3 that have inspired you in the last, and I'm not talking in your lifetime, in the last 10 years. We want a new mix and a new release on this thing. You know?
New release. You know, but yeah, I'd have to start with my mom as just my greatest inspiration. Because that's somebody, I also believe, you know, like I'm one of those people who believe that your role models should be people whose values and morals and struggles you understand. You cannot just admire and envy the end product. I think if you understand how it got to be formed, you've got more appreciation, and you're also able to emulate that example. So, you know, I've watched my mom. I could talk all day, all night about my mom and how far she has come, things she has taught me. I see so much of me in her. I remember when I was in Paris last year and I was shooting that movie Woman, and I just had to talk about me. You know, all I could think of, and I had to actually take a step back and think, how did I get to be the person I am? Like, what shaped my values? What shaped my MO, just my modus operandi, how I deal with things, how I approach problem solving, my resilience, those kinds of things. And I thought, you know, it wasn't even so much being my mom telling me what to do or teaching me. It was just me watching her handle her own life that you learn. So you learn by example. So yes, definitely her. And I've just watched so many other amazing women, you know, do their own thing around in the world, from business to life. When you say top 3, you really stun me, because I could think of so many, like, everyday heroes.
I want you to think on your feet. I want you to be like agile. I want you to be flexible.
No, of
I
course.
could have said
No,
more,
it's-
but I knew that
more-
saying 3 would be
In fact,
better.
more
Actually.
would be easier. More would be easier, because I can think of just so many amazing people who do like heroic things, you know, at the risk of leaving others out. You know, there are people who do things for me in my life that people wouldn't even begin to understand. It's not the kinds of things you put on social media, but these are women who hold me up, and without them, I don't know where I'd be in life. And I really admire them. They are my role models, because I understand exactly. And I guess for me, it's also not really about how much you can achieve for yourself, your own greatness. I think it's when your greatness starts to impact others around you positively, that, you know, it becomes a divine mission, that we look at it and we're like, wow. It's not a selfish drive. Yes, you excelling and doing what's best is obviously what's powerful for all of us, to watch you do your own thing, and more power to you. However, there is another level where your achievements fundamentally impact others. Because I think we do understand, all of us, I think there is an understanding that if you really want to live happily, to in life, to get the best out of life, you have to improve two constituents, you and the world around you.
Word.
Get involved in the world around you, and I try as much as possible to get involved, to be present, to be aware, to be alert, and to make a difference where I can. And these are the kind of women that I admire, like your everyday people. Not necessarily the people that you'll read about in Fortune 500 magazines. Yes, there are those. There are amazing women that we love, the Oprahs.
Oprah Winfrey is just another story
You've
altogether.
got your Winnie Mandelas when it comes to South Africa.
We'd have to dedicate a whole show to her.
You've got. How about Leah Tutu, Bishop Tutu's wife? What story can she tell about being married to a man like that? Her trials and tribulations, what it takes. Michelle Obama, for instance, the day she writes her own truthful story, what it's the journey to being Barack Obama's wife. And when you're there, they're just amazing stories that women that you really admire. Women that I admire, they're quite a few. And men who've done some amazing things, and some of the men who are behind the women. So yesterday I sent a Happy Women's Day to one customer of mine who's a man, and he had quite a good sense of humor about it, because it also talked about you being a woman. It wasn't just a generic Happy Mother's Day, Happy Women's Day. And his answer was, "Oh, thank you for invoking the woman in me." And it was funny because I thought, I think Women's Day, it should be okay to send a guy a Happy Women's Day, because there are men who work very hard to uplift and promote women. So it shouldn't be a funny thing to necessarily say Happy Women's Day to a man. You're not saying Happy Women's Day, woman. It's just Happy Women's Day, you South African, you kind South African who's doing the best. Because men have to live with women, and half the problems that women claim to have come from men, clearly. And they should be as involved as the men are.
Word is bond. Okay, on that bombshell, it's time to wind up. It's amazing how time flies. Women's Day is a wonderful thing. It highlights the positive that is happening in the daily lives of women.
Moya fashion.
And it also highlights the negative that is happening to women and children by and large. So let's just keep that thought in our hearts. I want to come back to all the business people that are out there. Today is Friday, the 10th of August. In everything that you do, let's just make sure that it is profitable. Let's make sure that the fashion blueprint is the blueprint that we are using to tell our story in fashion, so that we are able to add value with regards to global trend by giving a South African perspective. That was a mouthful. So we'll see you next week, okay? Thank you very much. Mimi, anything else?
Thank you for those final words. It is a show about fashion. It is the fashion blueprint. It is really about your wellness. I think in today's world, earlier we spoke about the importance of looking after our women and bringing up our sons to do the right thing next to our young girls. It's amazing how I was reading the other day about how depression is quite on the rise in our country. So it's really about the wellness. It's about looking after yourself. It starts with the small things, you getting out of bed and looking good and looking after your soul. If you need help, there are people out there who can. You're not alone, basically. It starts there. You're not alone in whatever that you're trying to do. So take care of yourself, love yourself, look after yourself, look good, and, feed the mind. We take care of everything else in our lives. People will make sure that things are taken care of. They replenish everything else. But as for the mind and our souls, we need to put in as much as we take out. So on that note, have an amazing weekend. Look fab. Come shopping. Also check us out online. Sangres Online is our new website. You can do your shopping there. Nicely linked, very safe, very secure. You do your PayPal thing. So we look forward to seeing you online. Otherwise, catch us on Santon. We're looking forward to seeing you this weekend.
Live and direct from 27 Boxes. Mangaliso here and his
Peace
wife.
out.
Peace out.
You're listening to brandlive.co.za.